And a good morning to you. Welcome inside the Bottom Line. You know, one thing that I have noticed is that winter that we missed in February, we're catching up for it now. And not that I don't like it, because I do. I do. There was actually a little frost on the truck yesterday morning. And not this morning. It was about, I think it's about 45 degrees when I came out this morning. But, yeah, I'll take it. Going to be dreary today, tomorrow, and into Thursday. Went home last night, and I knew if I didn't get the grass mowed, it was going to be awful, and I was going to lose Rolo in the grass because of how big it had gotten. I'd already mowed it one time, but I had put down fertilized and pre-emerge and stuff.
Right.
So I went in last night, and it was cold out on the mower. The wind was blowing. It was a little cold, and as much sunshine as we had, the grass was still really, really wet because it's really green. But I got it done. It'll be looking good for Easter, and it's all good. It's all good.
Fantastic.
So, surprise, I had a conversation with somebody this morning about this. Talk about how well the ACC looks. They look good in the tournament, but they didn't look good, in my opinion, all season.
Why is that?
Why is what?
They didn't look good all season.
You know, I don't know other than they beat each other up.
That's it. Good
I get
point.
that. I get
and
that.
You mentioned that before.
But
You did.
Morning, Richie. But still, I was surprised. I honestly did not feel like Clemson had a shot against Baylor. Baylor's pretty freaking good.
Right.
And they about let it slip away because they took their foot off the throttle towards the end.
And 24 fouled out. I'm going to tell you what. Kid was a great high school football player. Think he may have chosen the right sport. As good as he was in football,
and he
is a legitimate basketball player.
And as he was watching it kind of slip away from him, he was feeling bad. Yeah. But now I'm going to be honest with you, not just that game, but other games as well. You know, in the tournament, we talked about this. In the tournament, we let them play. And that's something that has hurt the ACC in years past. The ACC is called a little bit tighter
than
it is. And so they don't know how to react as much. But I did not see the consistency that I'd like to see in the officiating on some of the ticky-tacky fouls.
Yeah.
Stuff that they let go. And there were there's a few players out there that maybe should be nominated for an Academy Award. Pretty nice flops that were taken on some things. But anyway, 4 teams remain. They reseeded everything. Clemson and State are in that bottom 4. I think it was, I don't know if it was ESPN or 24/7. Somebody took the 16 that were left and reseeded. Right. State was 16. Clemson was either 13 or 12, but they're right there close to the bottom. But it's still a good outing for Clemson. Usually they would do well in preseason, not really well in the conference, and then very seldom would they make tournament. But, you know, they do have a tough one coming up. They got to play Arizona.
They do. And Arizona, you know, they were talking about that yesterday with the metrics and how Arizona would beat Carolina. I was listening to that. It was Colin Coward. G and I were riding up. They were playing Asheville yesterday at 4 o'clock. So we were riding up, and I was able to catch the Asheville, you know, radio station up there that carries, you know, Coward. And that's what one of the basketball coaches he had on, and I can't think of who it was. But he said, you know, when you line up the analytics, you know, he said Arizona, you know, beats Carolina. And Coward's like, really? He's like, yeah. And he went through a few things, and some of them were arguable, but, you know, the numbers are the numbers. You know, you really can't argue with the numbers, but that doesn't necessarily, predict. I mean, doesn't necessarily say this is exactly what's going to happen. They were talking about betting and odds, and that's kind of where the whole thing went. And, you know, I think the one thing that's very, very important to keep in mind is that on any given night, your chances to win are 50-50. Regardless of whether you're a better team or not, you either win or you lose, so it's 50-50. So, you know, you can throw all that stuff. It's kind of like Moneyball. You know, it works for a while, but when you get into series play or other things, it doesn't find all the intangibles of, you know, this guy may get on base a lot, but the guy behind him, is he a good bunter? You know, all of these things, these small metrics that come in. Same thing in, you know, basketball. You know, if State's inside game is being shut down and that boy's being doubled, Burns is being doubled or even triple teamed, and they kick it out and they're not hitting the 3, that's their game.
Well, that is a a standard defensive game plan is I know what you do well.
Yeah.
I'm going to shut that off. And then you're going to have to beat me with something else.
We do that in football, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And you know the places that you want to. It's all the same.
How exciting has this tournament been, though?
This tournament's been great.
I can't remember one that's ever been this exciting.
Well, here's the other thing. You know, when you talk about should you expand and all those type things, you're down to the Sweet 16.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, you've got a 1 and a 4, a 1 and a 5.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a 2 and a 3.
Right.
Here's the outlier. State is an 11, Marquette's a 2. Okay? That's the outlier.
Gotcha.
All right. Now, go to the other side of the bracket. You got a 1 and a 4, Carolina, Alabama. You got a 1 and a 6, Purdue and Gonzaga. Come down, you got number 2, Tennessee, number 3, Creighton. Then you've got number 2, Arizona, number 6, Clemson. Right. So except for State, all of those in the original seeds were a 6 or above. So
getting in there.
It kind of makes you think they got it right.
Oh, they
the way that it worked.
Do. And there's nothing wrong. Let me tell you something. The reason, now, and this is arguable, but I think it's worth a discussion to some degree with everybody, you know, is the reason that these tournament games have what they call upsets or been a little different than the seedings, you know, with the wins early on, Laney, is because we have players that have been playing 5 and 6 years.
Yes.
We haven't had that ever because it was, you know, used to you can only play 3 because freshmen didn't play. Now, what's interesting to that point is I am hearing rumblings in the Division II world that they're going to bring JV sports in to help increase enrollments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, you had mentioned that before.
All right. So, if that's the case, what does that mean for basketball? Let me tell you what I think is going to happen because less kids are going to college. I think, and I'm predicting, all right, that, and again, I'm just talking about possibilities. I don't know this. It's just things thinking about and just sharing, right? Maybe the natural evolution of things. I really believe that when you have when JV sports are incorporated, and they have some of them now, like Carolina's JV basketball team, and I don't know if they still got it, but I know they did for a long time.
Yeah, my cousin actually played on it. Roy Williams was the coach.
Okay, yeah, perfect. But I'm predicting that they are going to allow you to have initially an extra year in college to play sports, to keep you in school longer, to make sure they keep the halls filled up or the classrooms filled up or online or whatever, enrollment. Think of it this way. You play freshman ball you play JV ball, and you're a freshman. That's not a year of eligibility. Back up. It is, but it doesn't count as you playing a varsity sport. So they're saying, okay, it's like a red shirt. Even though you played, it's going to be like a red shirt. And then you got 4 years after that.
Well, even in a red shirt, and correct me if I'm wrong, a red shirt gets to do everything but play. Fully participate in practice.
Yes, everything.
They just don't play in actual games. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
I would have no problem.
They played in a minimum amount of games with an injury. You know, you know what I'm saying, to be able to declare.
But if you just red-shirted because I don't need you this year,
right? Or you need some develop.
You need some growth.
Right.
So I would be okay if they said, okay, we'll give you up to 2 years of JV sports that doesn't count on your 4 years of eligibility.
I think they should only do one.
Okay.
Now, I'm just saying, I think they should do one and then give you 4 after that with a red shirt year if you get hurt, like an injury year, right? You know, because sometimes you can't help it if you get hurt. Now, if you don't train hard,
right,
that's on you. You get hurt, soft tissue, that kind of thing. But those things still happen, right? You know, I'm not against – let me tell you, I'm not against people having an opportunity to play. But I don't think everybody, you know, needs to be told, yeah, you can go play college ball when you're not worth of – you know, you're not very good. You know, being told no is a great thing to be able to handle the world's issues. Because you've never heard the word no, you just lose your mind. I mean, look, you just look at the last 7-8 years and reactions, you know, to things that don't go the way you want it to, right? So now this is the elephant in the room. Basketball's got to get cleaned up with all the walking. Now, people can make up terms like Euro step, things like that, and they can say, well, technically it's not this and technically it's that. They're going to have to clean it up because it's taken away from the fundamental aspect of what the game is designed for. It doesn't mean you don't adapt and adjust, but Laney, some of these are deliberate. There was a guy 2 nights ago that literally took 4 steps before he ended up getting rid of the ball, and there was no call. In this thing about catching the ball, hopping, and then pivoting after that. Catch the ball, land, hop, land to set your feet. Say, well, they can do that if they want to set their jump shot. You got to clean the game up.
Well, here's what I think and you talk about this all the time. There is a distinct difference between professional and college, okay? I would like to see the college game go back to the way the rules were written. Now, if they want to give Euro step into pros, I mean, those are exceptional athletes. But in college, it needs, as you said, needs to be tightened up and come back to what it actually is, because you look at the small percentage. There are 2 rounds of the NBA draft.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility of 60 drafted players, and pretty good percentage of those don't even come from college. They're overseas players.
Well, they are now.
Yeah, especially first round. So when you look at that, and I think I heard somebody say there's 320, 330 Division I basketball programs in this country.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you look at the number of athletes inside that, and I think that's why go back. Gonzaga is one of those teams. Callher was talking about this yesterday. He said, I can't figure it out. There is nothing to draw anybody to Spokane, Washington. That's where Gonzaga is.
Yeah.
And he said they probably don't have a kid from the state of Washington that's playing on that team, but they have the rich tradition of how well they do.
Right.
And you got kids now that I think are coming to a different understanding that I really can't make it in the NBA, so I know that when my playing days are over in college, I'm done. So I'm going to get the most out of it that I can.
100%.
Instead of making that jump and failing and you're working at McDonald's after that.
100%.
So I think a lot of that is kind of education. And I've said before, that's the only place that I actually like a little NIL, because you've got kids that may need to make some money for family things, family obligations, and they can stay in school, and it makes more sense to do that.
You know, and that's a great point. The problem is the intent is always, I say always, the intent a lot of times is there to benefit that person, to be able to help. But what happens is too many sticky hands get into things.
Right. I agree.
And it's all about, well, I'm going to get mine, you know. And again, money is not the root of all evil. That is a misquote from the Bible.
That's correct.
Okay, money doesn't turn somebody into this. It reveals who they were to start off with.
That's right.
Right. And, you know, we're all trying to, I say all, you know, most of us are trying to improve ourselves daily, become a better person. You know, how do we make the world better, especially when we get older, when we start, you know, seeing things and we've got some life experience.
Different perspective.
Yeah, you know, and you learn that as you get older. You know, I am fine saying there was nobody more immature on the planet, you know, than I was growing up, or, you know, in college and that kind of thing, you know, early out, that kind of thing, whatever. But what was most important was, you know, trying to make yourself better as a person and provide more value to those around you, right? And as you get older, you know, buying into that theme seems to, and I think, and the reason I'm saying all this is I really believe that the extra year in college helps a lot of people from a life experience standpoint, not necessarily just learning a task or learning a skill or enhancing that, you know.
Maturity.
Right.
Just growing up.
And it's just really, really important. There are many coaches that will be against the JV sports because they want to get to know their players, especially on like soccer, like your people call them minor sports, but sports that aren't revenue producing, that have larger numbers of participants, with the exception of football. You know, it's really hard when you have 60, 70, 80 kids on a team to get to know each one and provide, you know, and address the matters most important to them, to help them grow as a person, to keep them there, develop them, or find the best fit for them, right? You just don't have that time unless you have the resources available. That's why you have like 8 college basketball coaches on a staff. You know, even though they may only list 2 or 3, you got 8 people, 7, 8 people working, because they've got anywhere between 15 and 20 kids, you know, they're in the program. And the same thing with football. People, well, you got too many coaches over there. I mean, it's like limiting your number of coaches in high school football. Well, if you know this program may have 100, but we're only going to pay for 6. you should base it off of, the growth and participation numbers, right, in that program. And I'm talking about locally, for example. So if Bunker Hill has 100 kids, then they get this many paid coaches because we are there to serve the kids, not to run a budget. Okay, because there's other things that can be cut out of a budget to pay for those 2 or 3 extra coaches, right? And I think we all know what we're talking about.
As long as those coaches are utilized properly and not just there to get a shirt. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we see that a lot. I've seen that, like coaching high school football. The problem is, again, not criticism here, just observation, but it's like you said, it's more important about wearing the shirt and sticking your chest out, which is not the purpose of that. You can be proud and have pride in what you're doing.
Correct.
Do those things, but at the same time, who are you serving? You
got to be there for development of the kids.
Yes, and if you're a coach and you've got experience or you're a head coach or whatever, how do you make your assistant coaches better to help the kids be better, right? And I think college is a good example of how that works because the funds aren't limited. That's not fair. The funds are differently allocated, right? But at the same time, the growth and development of players is just paramount.
Yeah.
And you have to, and I think that's what we're seeing in this NCAA. Now, we've had a lot of kids transferring to schools, and they talked about that yesterday too on the Colin Coward show. I know Dan Patrick talks about it, and they all do. The Pat McAfee show. Listen, they like to act like that. Oh, we're not serious, and that is a great show. If they do some funny stuff on there and some clownish things, but when you drill down into what they're doing, it is a very good show that brings a lot of things to light. Now, they won't go in depth on some touchy issues. They let Aaron Rodgers, they bring him on, talk about this and that, and maybe another person. So they don't toe the line as far as that goes with ESPN, right? But they still dive into a lot of subjects that really are important to the people that are watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me give you some comments and we'll take a break. Richie said, in the words of Charles Barkley on the Alabama Grand Canyon game, it was the dumbest game I've ever watched. Mark said the ACC refs once whistled the NC State mop guy for a technical foul for drying an area under the basket while free throws were being shot on the other end. Mark said he's giving Marquette and 4 points if anybody wants it. Richie said the referees were all over the place in this tournament. From play to play to half, the inconsistency was crazy. And it is.
But I got to tell you, Richie's right. But I don't necessarily blame them because of all the metrics that have been put in. They're not allowed to call basketball anymore. They have to call entertainment. What keeps people excited? Right. Is this a block shot or is it really a foul? How many times have we seen a guy go up for a layup and the official's on that side and he's going up on this side of the basket and the guy hadn't even touched him running through him, like, call the foul, count it, it's so exciting.
The one that drives me crazy is the one where you've got somebody that is straight up, don't move the arms, and then they get called for a foul because the person coming into the paint wants to bump into them. Well, that's just a play. Just let it go. But they call that.
They do.
It used to be you had to swat or do something. Mark said better stock up on ACC merchandise before the ACC is gone.
Mark's right. What about keeping that, put it in a safety deposit box or your home safe or whatever box at home, and then have it for your, depending on what age you are, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great, whatever, to leave that on, and then because what Wes does, your Wes, like he is really, really good at those things and finding value in those, especially like with the jerseys and things that he's done and the things that he's given you. Imagine, 60 years down the road, okay? You want to leave a legacy without really having to invest an arm and leg into it where you're still bringing value. I mean, who would have thought that Chewbacca in a package that's not, but that's a wonderful thing. Because what it does, it says, you know what? Check this quick one out. It really tells us where we were years ago and the good things and maybe not so good things about it. But you know what? At least we know, so we can maybe try to make the good things better and not repeat the things that were bad.
That's right. Richie said Carolina still has Hubert coaching and Sean Bays now coaching.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And Richie also said you also can't see a difference from a charge to a blocking foul. It's in the eyes of the beholder. Then you have the new cylinder rule, which I absolutely hate. That is in the cylinder, what they call a cylinder, extends from floor to up.
Right.
And then I saw this, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. The new rule, you can't hip drop tackle in the NFL yesterday, according to the rules.
That means you can't drop, put them in the hip and put them down. Is that what that means?
Yeah. I can't remember who said, well, go ahead and get the belts with the flags. Back in a moment.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit MooneyInsurance.com. Have you thought about when you would like to retire? One of your major assets is planning for retirement is time, and you lose a little of it each day. The longer you wait to start accumulating capital for retirement, the harder it's going to be. How should you plan for retirement? Start by calculating approximately how much capital you will need at retirement, then estimate how much you will have to put away each year. Finally, carefully choose the investments in which you will invest. Stiefel Nicholas can assist you. Call Fort Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stiefel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. And we're back.
Oh,
okay. I just have to switch out. One of these days, I'm going to actually work on my stuff over here and get crap fixed up right. I just don't always have time. I'm sorry, I don't always take time. The hip drop tackle, and I haven't looked closely at this, Richie. I heard about it yesterday, but it is a ban on swivel hip drop tackling technique. Now, I don't know what that means exactly. It's a 15-yard penalty now. But it says it's likely to be enforced similar to the use of the helmet rule, which typically leads to warning letters and fines.
Yeah.
In addition, 2 other proposals were approved. Teams will receive a 3rd challenge after 1 successful challenge. Previously, teams had to be successful on 2 challenges to receive a 3rd.
That's good. That's good.
The lines put that out. If there's a double foul during a down in which there's a change or changes of possession, including if one of those fouls is a post-possession foul by a team during a scrimmage kick, the team last gaining possession will keep the ball after enforcement of its foul, provided it did not foul before the last gaining possession.
Okay, so why do we park in the driveway and drive on the parkway?
Well, it's kind of like if I'm reading that right, it is you have a foul that occurred after the completion of the gain.
Right.
It's still going to have to be. The hip drop tackling ban proposal was written to address only a subset of the rugby tackling style that has spread around the NFL in recent years. The tackling technique often results in lower body injuries. Yeah. If a defender grabs the runner with both hands or wraps the runner with both arms and also unweights himself by swiveling and dropping his hips or lowering his body, landing on and trapping the runner's leg at or below the knee.
Okay, so there was a lot of things that they were talking about in the NFL that have filtered down to what they call heads up and safety football and all these things. And so one of them was, and I've got to see how this mirrors up with it, but one of them was instead of, Pete Carroll was big on this, okay, is about tackling where you trail the hip. All right, so instead, like if you're running this way, instead of me getting my head across, they said, no, that's unsafe. You put this shoulder on it, so because they might cut back on you. Like, what if they outrun you? But anyway, you're supposed to put this shoulder on it, attack them, and then roll. Now, I don't know if that is part of that.
Sounds like
that's where that roll technique comes in, and that's the way things are being taught to tackle, which, there were a lot of really good points. And you can look on the internet for Seattle's, one of Seattle's coaches, and, of course, Pete Carroll was big on this again, about how to do that, and it's all part of the heads up, trying to protect the head and things like that. But I think what everybody, eventually started understanding is, we can try to recreate things, but we can't recreate how the contact is going to happen, right? It's only to how to avoid it. And, again, all these rules are brought in about, and points of emphasis about you need to try to make things safer. Well, you can't put somebody on a bike going 110 miles an hour, and make it any safer. You can put bodysuit on them. You can do all this stuff, and but then the aerodynamics go away, so the bike's not as fast as it was, right? And things are about competition. And in the end, I know every time stepping up to the plate that there was a chance I was going to get hit in the head with a baseball. Especially a guy, when I played 30 years ago, 90 miles an hour is like 103 today. Mm-hmm. It is what it is, right? I mean, it's 90's still really good, but it's a little different game today, right? Because of the speed of the pitch. And I understood that, and I knew what that risk was. My mom and dad knew it. When I stepped out and played football, just like when Quinn, the other kids, their parents, you played, there is a risk for head injury, right? Mm-hmm. And, trying to be aware of that is important, but you can't change the fundamental dynamics of how the game is played and expect things to improve. They have to go in a different direction, and you have to accept the way it goes. And that, I understand what they're doing here with this, because we've seen many tackles over the last several years with this tackling technique that have torn ACLs or broken ankles.
But let me ask you this.
Things like that.
Okay, here's what they said. Jeff Miller, Executive Vice President, NFL, said there were 230 instances of the tackling technique during a game last season. Yeah. 15 players missed time as a result.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
So do you think – I guess where I'm coming from on this type stuff is I'm looking for intent. Was this a tackling technique that was meant to have an intent to hurt the player?
No.
It's just a result of the action.
Because the players adapted. Because now we're so strong that we don't really need to drive. And I'm talking about pro kids and a lot of college kids that are third and fourth year that gotten in, actually worked out and gotten stronger, right? High school, some, but not so much. Longer in high school football, it's really important to hold on and drive for 5 is what I called our defensive guys. Mm-hmm. You keep him wrapped up. Do not let go. Mm-hmm. You can't get a clean hit. You get a clean hit, drive for 5. 5 steps, do not stop. Mm-hmm. You play through the whistle, not to it. You're not playing dirty, but you're making sure you complete the play and that everybody's safer that way. It's safer for the ball carrier or the runner. Mm-hmm. It's safer for you to complete the play instead of trying to hold up, okay? That doesn't mean you be excessive with anything, but just complete it. Don't want anything dirty. the problem today is that these pro guys are so strong and their grip strength is so strong, the human body can't get away from the grasp like it used to. The running backs can't, because we don't really have a lot of power backs anymore. Well, we got scatters, scat backs, okay? I don't consider McCaffrey a power back, even though he's probably the toughest dude, one of the toughest guys. But he's not a Jerome Bettis, right? Bettis, you don't have a choice. You can't roll. I mean, he can't. It's hard to right. It's hard to roll these guys. What they're talking about with the hip drop and things like that. But you drive, and keep wrapped up. But these pro and college kids are so strong today because of training that this is a way to grab a hold and get them to the ground instead of driving through the legs and keep going.
But the thing of it is, you can't hit high, okay? You can't hit low. It's getting to the point to where they're just going to have to give you a list of what you can do, and I don't understand how two players at that level of athletic ability can remember and insert proper techniques to make sure you don't do one of these things that's illegal. That's the part that I guess that I'm.
The hardest thing. No, I agree with you. The hardest thing to legislate, whether it's in law, is intent. Yeah. Like you said, is it intended to do this? This is the thing about it. We all, as NFL fans, anybody that is and watches it, we know who's dirty and who's not. We know. And I think that's the part of the game that they're really trying to clean up is we want you to play hard, and we want you, even to the borderline of being excessive but not abusive, right? Playing that game with that just pure intent to really hit hard, do these things, because that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes rugby so great, right? The fact that, wow. But anyway, but we're getting to the point now, it's kind of like government. If there's not a law written about this in government, then government can't do it, right? Local government, anything, being involved in that. If it doesn't say we can, then we can't. It's the opposite for citizenship. If a law, there's no law that says that you can't do it, then you can. Which way is the NFL going?
Right.
And I think on the offensive side, there's more citizenship, and on the defensive side, there's more governance.
When you get to where there's that many rules, you're starting to get to where what you can do instead of what you can't do, because the list of things you can't do outweigh or outnumber the list of things that you can do.
Well, now tackling's completely different on the way that these guys have been playing for 7 to 10 years now through college and high school, and now into early pro ball or through pro ball. So now not being able to use that's a big deal. The other reason that the weight thing is so important, grip strength by maybe a smaller defensive player on a big back like Derrick Henry, he holds on. He's got to drop to use his force to get
his extra weight because he's outweighed 60 pounds.
Right. So now what do? Well, now you got to go down and hit him at the ankles.
Yeah, but you can't go low.
Well, but there you go. So what does that tell you about
thigh
football?
To gut. It's thigh to gut is the only place that you're really allowed to hit.
But what does that tell you about football? What does that tell you about the offensive side and the defensive side?
It's getting weak.
Defensive side continues to improve and evolve, and they want the offensive side to do it. But how many points did Patrick Mahomes have in the championship game? 19. That's it. Look at what the Chiefs held the 49ers to. 13. I mean, come on.
Well, the other thing, we were talking about this off the air. And a lot of people don't want to agree with this. But because of the way today's athlete has evolved with strength, speed, size, agility, all of those things, you're playing inside a confined area that has not evolved with these athletes. Right now, I think the football field is too small. It's going to be hard to change because you're inside stadiums. I think the basketball court is too small because these guys are so big and long and strong, they can cover so much more area than what they used to. And until they change something like that, and I don't remember. I know in the Canadian League, it's 110 yards inside the playing field, right?
I want to say
105,
110 or 120. Can't remember.
They've got a 55-yard line.
Yeah, they got and they've got in
then 20 yards in the end zone.
Yeah, that's right. That's
20
right.
yards
That's
deep.
right. And they do have that 50, kind of the midfield,
Yeah.
the 55, right? And then they've got much wider. I want to say it's like 55 yards, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I can't remember that right offhand. I mean, it's easy to look up, but and the interesting part too is they have 3 downs, and they got several different rules. But they got double motion. I do like that. I don't want it in the NFL, but I like it for Canadian football. It makes it fun to watch.
Okay, the Canadian field is 110 by 65.
65. Holy smokes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Compared to 100. Well, they didn't give me in feet.
No, it's 100 and 153 in the third yards, which is 160 feet in, I guess what we call
the
American
width,
football.
91. So it's 10 feet, almost 10 feet narrower than Canadian football. And 10, so it's 10 by 10, basically, is what it is. Plus, the end zones are 20 yards deep.
Yeah, so our football, when I say our, I'm talking about here in the U.S., right, that we play high school, college, and pro ball in, is 100 yards, goal to goal, so that's 300 feet and 160 wide. That's 53 and a third yards, okay? Obviously, Canadian football, stretches it out and goes wider. And I think we all know that from just, watching it.
I did not know this, that when football was originally started, there were only 3 downs. 3 downs when it first created in the 19th century. The United States changed from 3 downs to 4 in 1912.
Had to.
But the Canadians remained with just 3.
They had to.
Wow.
They had to because, you just couldn't stay within, especially the way the game was, you couldn't stay within basically running tight end to tight end and get 10 yards on 3 plays. The defense is just too much. It's like now. It's just too much. When you have equally talented athletes that are faster or just as fast as you are on offense, there's, people say, oh, well, look how fast they're scoring. Look how fast this wideout is. Okay. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They can't run, the college offense that they want to run because of I wear it out. I'm wearing it out. Defensive ends. Rush ends.
Yep. Richie said also in Canadian League he likes it with the wide receiver or whoever is in motion and can start running.
That's fun.
I like that.
Now,
Stephen Lowe, good morning.
Tell Richie, is it Richie that said that? I would love to see a defensive back come up when that dude's coming up like this and just pow,
Yeah. Richie also said, and I've heard about this, I haven't seen it, Kim Mulkey went on a 4-minute tirade at her press conference. And I don't know why she's developed such a chip, but she has.
She's always been that way. I've been following her for 30 years.
So why is
She's
it
my
more
favorite
prevalent
coach.
now?
For her to do what she's doing, because she's having to maintain control of the locker room. She has a couple of players, one in particular, that was having some issues about controlling, behavior on the court that was affecting the team overall. And then them not being disciplined. She is an older school coach, obviously, that had a tremendous playing career and is a fierce competitor. I was telling one of my friends, Janet Dixon, the lady I coached with at Irwin High School years ago, who actually worked at Maiden for a year or two, a long, long time ago. I think Butch knows her pretty well. But I was talking to Janet the other night, and I was telling Janet, I said, did you see Mulkey's, interview? Messenger or whatever. She said, no, I hadn't seen it yet. I said, go watch it. She come back and said, holy cow. She said she's laying into them, and rightfully so. They did not play well. They won. She said, but and Janet was a basketball coach or whatever in high school, and, just all into the college scene and everything. So it's easy to have a really well-educated conversation with her because we have the same like interest. Pat Summitt was my favorite. She passed away. Mulkey's mine. We have a lot of great coaches. Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski, all this, but the intensity that Mulkey brings and the way she goes about what she does and the business that she does with the flair that she has. She's always wearing some kind of crazy outfit. I say crazy, just colorful, But what she's done is that she's brought so much attention to the importance of women's basketball and allowed it, with Gino and many of the other coaches. Claire Lawson, who coaches at Duke now, who played at Tennessee?
Right.
Amazing. She's the one I follow now. And there's so many good ones out there. But Mulkey is so intense, and she is a truth speaking, seeking person. And she doesn't like the fact that that a couple of athletes are not displaying themselves in a high character. They're more worried about being first, about doing whatever than doing things right. She's into the growth and development of players, much like Saban said the reason he got out is because now they're only worried about how much money they're getting.
Right.
Gino says it too, right? You know, he says it's just crazy. You know, he said the reason everybody's going to European players and trying to get them over here is because they practice 6 days a week and play once on the weekend.
That used to not be the case.
Right. We're here, we play 6 games on the weekend and practice once a week. He said we have no skill set. He said over here we're so much more athletic, we're faster, we can do this. But the three things we can't do is we can't dribble as well.
Right.
We can't pass as well. And we can't defend as well with our game here because we play so much instead of practicing and training. And I think that's important. And Mulkey is still that old school, kind of what we were talking about. And she's trying to still, you know, keep things reined in so the level of play can continue to go up. It hasn't gotten here because, excuse me, things have changed and the players are allowed to be themselves. No, you still have to have focus, discipline to go along with the desire. You have to have that. And she knows that. She's not going to let that out of her reach.
The women's side is no different than the men's side. If you look at the Elite Eight that's coming up, you've got Sweet 16. You've still got Iowa and Colorado. That's a 1 and a 5. South Carolina, Indiana, 1 and a 4.
Right.
Oregon State, Notre Dame, a 2 and a 3. LSU, UCLA, a 2 and a 3. Get the other side of the bracket. You've got Texas, Gonzaga, 1 and a 4. You've got Southern Cal and Baylor, 1 and a 5. UConn and Duke, 3 and a 7.
Awesome.
And then NC State, Stanford is a 3 and a 2. So you've got those that, you know, they kind of got it right. One thing that surprised me a little bit too is the number of men's and women's programs that are still in it on both sides.
Yeah,
men's
ACC.
And
ACC is well represented. Syracuse, you know, got beat by UConn, but look, you know, I think – is that Duke? Yeah, Duke.
Duke beat Ohio State and play UConn.
Who is it? Stanford and
State.
Yeah, there's another one.
But you got State with men's and women's still open.
Duke,
UConn, those are still there. Texas got beat. Gonzaga's still there.
Well, the other one was Baylor. With Mulkey.
Yeah,
you know, Baylor just got beat, but they very easily could have been. There's a lot of excitement right now with this, and I hope they can get the player recruiting within the portal taken care of, you know, where it you know allows people to, you know, improve themselves, but not you know, just go to the highest paid. You know, that's not what college and athletics was. If you want to do that, then create a separate league and do that. But
and I think that's where we're going to go.
Well, and I hope so, because what they're going to end up doing is going back.
But 85-90% of colleges will go back to the old way because they can't afford to play in that game.
Well, and then, too, they're like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You know, no matter what happens and what goes on, and we've seen it in our country, we've seen it all over the world for thousands of years in our country, the last 200, 300 years. Things will evolve, things will change. But the one thing that the country and the world always goes back to are fundamental principles. All right, they may have values with this and waves of this going on and things, as things are being felt out or even being done. But the one thing that you go back to your fundamental core principles, and then you build out again from there, and then you have fractions that break off and say, well, these are our values. Yeah. Well, it might be, but what are your principles? And if you don't have those in place, then you're going to fail and come back to the old to the original model, which is good.
Things come and go, but everything runs in a cycle.
And when I mean good, I mean that are good.
Yeah.
Instead of evil. Good.
Quick break. Back in a moment.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver, or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Have you thought about when you would like to retire? One of your major assets is planning for retirement is time, and you lose a little of it each day. The longer you wait to start accumulating capital for retirement, the harder it's going to be. How should you plan for retirement? Start by calculating approximately how much capital you will need at retirement, then estimate how much you will have to put away each year. Finally, carefully choose the investments in which you will invest. Stiefel Nicholas can assist you. Call Ford Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stiefel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. And we're back. Yeah,
I like it, dude.
I got to fix that.
I like that.
I know you do.
Dude,
I got to fix that.
Richie.
Let's see. Richie said Carolina got curb stomped by South Carolina in the women's.
Well, they did, and South Carolina's that much better. I mean, they just are. I mean, who said that? Richie? Yeah, he's right. He's right, man.
Richie wants to know what the new obstruction rule in baseball is.
Oh, I need to look that up.
Okay.
I need to look that up. You know what? We were talking about that last night, and I forgot to look it up.
I hadn't heard
talking
that
about
story.
that in Asheville. Yeah, and there was actually a play in Gary's game that somebody brought that up just in a middle school game. It's crazy, but let me look it up right quick.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Baseball is around the corner. Did you like that the Major League Baseball had opening day in South Korea, and then they've got to come back over here, do some spring games, and then open it up? I mean, why couldn't they have just done it as an exhibition? The people in South Korea would not have cared.
Yeah, we're constantly being tested by global, and I don't say globalism, but you know the inclusiveness and marketing of sports. It's really good, to take the show on the road, right?
Especially when you have a lot of international players.
Yeah, and it's important. I think even in the case of, we can get into, what Chinese, government does and the things that, are inappropriate, with some of the workers or camps or whatever they have. But trying to expose things into different parts of the world that we have here are very important. Just like, if someone has something like, soccer, for example, in Europe, which they brought here to the U.S. and it's international and all this, but maybe a bad example, but the same concept, right? Just try to, work it into the parts. The thing that separates football is the mentality. Basketball can be played universally. All right. Well, football can too. But football's mentality is so different, and the mindset of what you have to do to be successful at it. There's so much flag football now in the United States because people want to look at the outer parts of the game and try to make it an inner part of it. And as we've seen, from a defensive standpoint, the way that you can neutralize those things, not in high school, I'm talking about NFL, not college, NFL, that can't be done on every single level. It can be taken advantage of in the high school and college level, but not the NFL. And the mindset's just so different, about how you go about playing the game, the mental toughness, the grind every day. How much game film you watch to, watch tendencies with the other team, the players that you've got to guard or potentially tackle, who's coming to block you. It's just a lot different. And it's so hard for them to see that. I say them, I'm talking about people in other countries, to grasp that as a whole because of the intensity of it. In soccer, you have a lot of things, and I've never played, but Andrew played and, had conversations with him. And I'm sure you have a lot of friends or people that, have been involved in it. It's more about anticipation and knowing kind of what that guy over there can do than it is actual how much studying that you actually do based on several different players that are out there. Now, I'm not saying they don't do that, but I'm talking about the intensity of it for the violent interaction that occurs. And then how do I back that up? What if they put so-and-so in? It's on a much lower level in basketball, soccer, baseball, tennis. And again, I'm just giving a few examples here and trying to give a good one. Them going overseas to play baseball is a great thing because there's a lot of great players in Korea. We know that. We watch the Little League World Series. They develop them young, Japanese, all of these. They have leagues over there overseas, and, it's really good. But playing an opening night over there, no.
Yeah.
No,
I agree.
Here,
Okay.
and then you take the show on the road.
The obstruction rule, with a little bit I just looked at, looks like it's always been there. They're just kind of refined it, and what they're doing said most of the time it happens at second and third. It's when a part of your foot or whole foot, part of your leg or whole leg is clearly an obstruction to a base runner to get to the base pad.
Right.
Now it's become an issue because some first basemen have perfected the art of illegally blocking the bag on pickoff throws. When I played softball, because I never played baseball because I sucked at it, when I played softball, I was a catcher. And when I was waiting on a throw at home plate, my foot was in front of the plate.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So you couldn't slide directly onto it.
I mean, that's what we teach.
Now that's an obstruction.
Well, and this is the problem. There was a reason that players were allowed to slide into or run over people in the way. So it's just the exact opposite that it is in football. So baseball is the only game where the defense has the ball. I say only game, one of the few out there in the world where I'm sure cricket, whatever, but the defense has the ball, right? They have possession of the ball. And so you have to think of it in reverse metrics the way that you do the NFL. And so for the obstruction rule, they don't want your foot in front of the bag. They don't want you to do this because they will have to go back if they keep allowing that to allow players to be run over. So then everything's done in the name of safety, okay? And for the safety and security of our athletes, and I got to listen to that crap. Okay, you go out and compete, number one. If you're dirty, you should be ejected, but also you have to play within the,
right.
But that is where, the emphasis is, to Richie's question, is just basically not blocking the base with any part of your body. All right, that's what, tag the person out without being in front of the base. Now, there's going to be a lot of petty stuff called because it's a point of emphasis, and it is a rule. So I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff.
How does the review thing work in Major League Baseball?
As far as
the umpire could just decide to look at anything?
It has to be requested. Okay. And what's happened is it's gone away from, now now a strike, if it's a check, what they call a check swing or an attempt or whatever, you can appeal and ask for help there. They can give it. You can't really review that. But as far as out and safe and whether it was intent, again, hard to legislate that.
It would be easy enough to go back and review if something was an obstruction.
Yeah, I think so. The problem is we're now getting into the heat of the moment and having to be aware of where you stand instead of competing. So now we're putting all these rules in to make
same thing in football. That's the same thing on tackle. You got to think about what you do before you do it.
And again, if you notice, the defense is the one being punished here in baseball. You can't shift your listen. I will argue with any purist on this, and I'm not saying they're wrong and I'm right, but as long as you got eight people, all right, in baseball that are inside the playing field, the catcher's allowed to be outside. Mm-hmm. I say the playing field, the
inside the lines,
fair lines. Then people call them foul lines, call them fair lines. All right, as long as you got 8 people, you put them where you want to. No, you can't do that because that's not fair because they're taking – what should the hitter do? Learn how to hit.
That's right.
Instead of drop his backside and try to launch the ball, which is, the really cool thing to do.
Well, because that's all. That's where it's gone to. That's the whole problem.
Is baseball more exciting today than it was when McGuire and Sosa played? No. Barnes played? No. Why is that?
It got a little better last year, I thought.
Oh, sure. And I'm not saying I don't enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
But I don't watch it all year long because I can't take it.
No.
Oh, this guy throws 103 miles an hour. Ball 4, hit a batter. Ball 4, 390-foot, towering home run to left field, 472 feet center field. I don't feel like we're playing baseball. I feel like we're up there playing Powerball. That's fine. That's fine. You do what you want to do. I'll watch what I want to watch.
And I'm not a baseballer, you know that, but I like –
yeah, you are.
I like small ball.
Well, but it's a part of strategy. It's kind of like running the veer in football. The veer's only been backed up to run what they call zone, inside and outside zone read. Mm-hmm. Right, you know what I'm saying, or where you either give, keep, or you can throw the ball. Right,
Mm-hmm.
That's veer football. Is what it is. It's just been magnified on a wider scale to encompass more parts of the field. Right, that's why a power running game, the spread's so important. You can still have a power running game by implementing a tight end, or people call them an H back. It's really a different kind of tight end or fullback. Depending on what you want to do, but the one thing that no matter how much you try to expand things, and innovation's a great thing. It is. It's like people talk about artificial intelligence. I call it artificial information because basically it only knows what it's computed in.
That's correct.
You know what I'm saying? So anyway. And I'm not saying it's bad or wrong. I'm saying it is what it is. We kind of, we let words dictate what things are instead of the true nature of what it is. We like to listen instead of watch what people do. We're more worried about what somebody says, as a society in whole instead of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Basically it all comes down to being lied to. Is what I mean. If you want to get down to it, well, you said this, and you're doing this. So basically, you lied. Right? You're not doing what you said you were going to do. Or you're not person enough to stand up and say, you know what, I changed my mind.
Right.
Which is
it's
probably
all about owning stuff.
Right. But this is the whole problem, that they're trying to incorporate things into sports like this obstruction rule. You know what? The way they get out of the way is you run over them. Well, that might end somebody's playing career. Get the hell out of the way. Pete Rose, I don't apologize for running over that guy in the All-Star game. Yeah, but it's an All-Star game. Oh, wait, don't minimize it and sit there and judge it based on, what the perceived situation.
Well, if you're not going to play it at 100%, then I don't.
The same people that complain about, well, he shouldn't run over somebody in the All-Star game, are the same ones that say, well, I'm not watching NFL All-Star or the Pro Bowl game because they don't do anything. I mean, you can't have it both ways. Mm-hmm. You're either all in or you're out.
That's right.
You can't make a gray area there and say, well, you can kind of be in when it's season and you're excited or whatever. You can't do that.
Mm-mm. Nope. Don't work that way.
You can't do it. Don't tell me. Show me. Show me. That's why, in the movie Remember the Titans, he says, "Show me, Bama, show me."
Yeah.
He didn't say, "Tell me, show me, show me."
Yep.
When he's coaching the kids up. I mean, that's what golly, Yost and Bill Yost and
Denzel Washington's character.
Yeah, which was a real life person.
Yeah.
Watch that movie all the time, right? It's just they're more worried about what it's a great movie for life too, because they're more worried about the content of what the person is doing and who the person is, rather than all this other perceived stuff.
Yep.
It's a great, but anyway, NCAA basketball, tremendous. Loving every minute. Watched the girls' games last night when we got back in from Asheville. Incredible endings. A lot of fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
And our tournament this year has just been more engaging. What I don't want is 96 teams.
Well, it shows you when you get to this part, it's not going to matter.
Right. I don't want and I say, well, yeah, but there's 300 and some teams and everybody needs to know people. Listen, you have an opportunity during your season.
Everything was not created for you to be given an opportunity. You can earn an opportunity.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's all about it's like Lou Holtz talked about. It's not about rights and privileges as much as it is about roles, responsibilities, and duties.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you got a younger generation now. Quinn's group, I got to tell you, man, that age group, they don't like a bunch of foo-foo stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
They don't. I mean,
they want what it should be.
Well, they want to know what's true.
Yeah.
All right, and if you're being truthful or not. There's a reason the way things are going on in the country right now, the way they are.
It took a couple generations, but we're starting to get back there.
Well, it always rolls through.
Yeah.
Things cycle through.
That's
I'm not
exactly
saying people
right.
are wrong by thinking a certain way. You have every right as an American citizen.
Yep.
But, you can't have it both ways. Even though you may be given that temporarily, you can't sustain that long term.
Yep.
Can't.
Yep.
It's got to be led with truth, or it's just not. It's going to fall apart.
We're out the rest of the week. Juju's going to call in the morning. I have a little pre-recorded to do with him in the morning because he missed yesterday. Last night we were on the air because he was in Charlotte with middle schoolers. He's taking that job kind of seriously.
He loves it.
Have a great week, guys.
He's very good at it.
See ya.